Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is, of course, Cameron. Just thought we'd do a little video. I think I'm going to title it something along the lines of Toffees today or something like that. And it's just going to be a little 5-10 minute video talking about some of the latest news that has gone on around the world of Everton over the last sort of 24 hours or so. Now, I'd love to sit here and say that these videos are going to be daily and I'll get them out every single day, but I've said those types of things before and it hasn't ended up coming to fruition for a number of reasons. One of them because some days I'm just too busy, and others, because some days there's just not enough news to sit down and talk about. But when there is a little bit of news, when there is something going on that is worth talking about, we'll sit down, we'll do a little Toffees Today video and we'll discuss whatever that is. It's been almost a week since the Premier League season was concluded. Everton staying up on the final day of the season, of course, with a win against Bournemouth at Goodison Park. We did the live game review to that game a couple of days ago, and I expressed how, for me, it wasn't a time for celebration. It wasn't a time for overly being excited or happy or overjoyed by the situation. For me, it was a time of a massive breath of and sigh of relief, and then sort of looking forward on and planning and looking at how we obviously can avoid this happening again in the future, because last season we were all culpable, I think, of almost sort of brushing it under the carpet and almost thinking, right, that'll never happen again, we can't be in another relegation battle, so let's just look towards the future and let's look towards the future positively. And then because there was no change at board level, because the same people were left to run the football club for another season in charge, we very, very nearly ended up being relegated once again this season. So for me, it's much more a productive outlook on the season this time, and for me it's much more about trying now to get the message across that these people simply are not welcome at this football club, and what we've just witnessed for the last 2 seasons is not good enough. And as I said, I'll be sitting on here probably with big smiles on my face, laughing and joking and smiling when we get the news that those people who are running the football club have been removed of their posts, and we actually can look forward to some form of positive future. But we are still a Premier League team, and that is obviously what the goal was, and Sean Dyche has done an absolutely fantastic job in doing that. And we've heard over the last 24 hours or so that Everton have confirmed that both Conor Coady and Ruben Vinagre will return to their parent clubs after their loan spells were completed. No surprise on the Ruben Vinagre front, of course. Barely played any football in the last year or so at Everton. I think he's suffered from an injury for the last couple of months or so, which has kept him completely out of the frame. He hasn't even been included in match day squads for the last 2-3 months or something like that. But even prior to that, whether it be under Frank Lampard, whether it be under Sean Dyche, he certainly wasn't somebody that was in the running or in the frame for any form of football this season. And it's not like we're sitting here talking about Vitaly Mykolenko having an absolutely unbelievable season at left back. That just isn't the case. Obviously, Vitaly has been very up and down this season, but for the most part, I don't think he's particularly been great. He's done okay, but he's not particularly been great. And there was definitely room for another left back to come in and be given an opportunity for, and a run of games in the team to see if they can offer us anything different. And Ruben Vinagre wasn't even given the chance to do that, and that just shows what was thought of him by the manager and the previous manager as well. Clearly he wasn't deemed very good enough. Clearly he wasn't deemed, ready to step in and take that challenge. We've seen, Dwight McNeil play at left back. We've seen Ben Godfrey play at left back. We've seen a number of players fill in that position, and we've seen very, very little of Ruben Vinagre. Disappointing, really, because when he come in, and I remember his debut against Dynamo Kiev, and obviously it was only a friendly, and it wasn't a competitive game of football, and this, that, and the other. But he come on, he looked good, he got an assist, he looked positive going forward, and other than that game, we've seen him for a little bit of football in the Carabao Cup in the earlier stages. I think he started one game. He might have come off the bench in one game as well in the Premier League. I think he come off the bench against Chelsea on the opening game of the season. But other than that, we haven't seen him whatsoever for the best part of the entire season. Literally, other than the first 2 months of the season, he's been completely absent. So absolutely no surprise that his loan spell will not be turned into a permanent move. Do wish Ruben the very best of luck with his future. It's not his fault, I dare say. You know, he probably just wasn't the right fit at the right time at the football club, and ultimately, you know, given his injuries as well at the latter end of the stage of the season when he may have got an opportunity, he wasn't able to be given that. So wish him the best of luck. Won't be a great miss because we never had him in the first place, basically. But yeah, hopefully he goes on and does well for himself in the future of his career. Conor Coady, very, very differently. This is one that certainly has split opinion on social media over the course of the last sort of 5-6 hours or so. Ever since it was released, there's been constant conversation over the course of the season as to whether or not Everton will opt to buy Conor Coady on a permanent deal. It was reported very, very early on in the season, in the opening couple of months, that the fee would actually only be around £4.5 million. And obviously, Conor come in and for the opening 2 months of the season, he formed this partnership with James Tarkowski, which very much seemed unbreakable. And, you know, whilst we weren't winning games of football because we had no Dominic Calvert-Lewin and we didn't really have anybody that was putting the ball in the back of the net, we weren't losing games of football. And I remember after that game against Chelsea, I think we went something like 7 games unbeaten, and don't get me wrong, I think we only managed to win one of them in that period, but the rest of them were draws, and they were draws because ultimately defensively we were very, very solid, and Conor had come in and he'd brought us something that we hadn't seen at the football club for a long, long time, in that leadership, in that vocal leader on and off the pitch. He was spoke about so openly, and he was pushed a lot by the football club as well early on. In this time at the football club this season, we pushed a lot in terms of, you know, there was a lot of different players, Alex Iwobi, I think Damari Gray, coming out and doing interviews about how influential he is on the dressing room in terms of his character, in terms of his leadership, in terms of his behaviour, in terms of his professionalism. All of it, was spoken about so positively by various different people at the football club. He got his England call up as well, of course, which again, he's there about the England squad because of those qualities. And, you know, it looked at one point in October, September, that Conor Coady signing for Everton on a permanent deal for that price was absolutely nailed on. It looked absolutely nailed on. If you'd have said to me sitting here in September, October, Cam, you know, the season's going to conclude and Conor Coady will return to Wolves and won't sign on a permanent, at the sat here and said, what are you talking about? It's absolutely nailed on that he'll sign on a permanent deal. Obviously, a lot has changed, and he's described this season as the most difficult of his career. He, as I said, he did form that partnership with James Tarkowski early on in the season, and they were absolutely brilliant. And like I said, we hadn't seen, you know, somebody at Everton Football Club come in who demanded that, you know, the level of respect in the sense of him being a vocal leader as Conor Coady did. Obviously, we've seen some top players at Everton over the years, but Conor was very clearly somebody that, you know, everybody else in the squad looked up to and listened to, and, you know, almost was able to improve under because of his guidance and those qualities as a captain. And we sat here last season and spoke a lot about how Everton just simply don't have enough leaders at this football club, and then Conor coming in, it was almost like oh my god, we've absolutely hit the nail on the head. So when it was reported in September, October that it's only a £4.5 million clause, it seemed a no-brainer. Obviously a lot has changed since then, you know, in terms of Everton's struggles. The season didn't quite pan out maybe as we would have liked it. Well, definitely as we would have liked it. We started to lose games of football. Conor started to make a couple of mistakes here and there, and, you know, obviously we got to the point where Frank Lampard lost his job, and then when Sean Dyche come in, it was almost like Sean Dyche was not a massive fan of Conor Coady from the off. Obviously, he played in the first couple of games, and then as soon as, you know, we made that mistake in the Merseyside derby, and it was almost like a reason to take him out the team. Sean Dyche found that reason, took him out, and then obviously we started the whole Michael Keane playing week in, week out. And, you know, I've sat here and criticised Sean Dyche numerous times over the course of the last few months for that decision, and don't get me wrong, I think Sean Dyche has done a fantastic job in the end, and I think he's realised his mistake in the end. But for a good 2 months he persisted with Michael Keane when it was quite clear that Michael Keane ultimately wasn't good enough, and I think there was multiple reasons for doing that. One, probably because maybe he didn't quite fancy Conor Coady as much as Frank Lampard did, or as much as maybe we did as fans, and two, because he obviously had that prior conversation with Michael Keane, or that prior relationship with Michael Keane, and he wanted to give him that opportunity. And the moment Conor Coady come out of the team and Michael Keane come in, it was almost that point that was the real decision maker, and the factor in his future and whether or not his future will be at Everton Football Club. He come out, Michael Keane come in, I think we conceded 4 goals in 4 games that Conor Coady played for Everton under Sean Dyche, 1 goal a game. We conceded 20 goals in the 10 games that Michael Keane had played. So it was almost like Conor Coady was brought out at the first opportunity by Sean Dyche, whereas Michael Keane was given chance after chance after chance after chance. Michael Keane was then brought out because it was becoming pretty much untenable, and it was to a point where myself and a lot of Evertonians were almost talking about this being the hill that Sean Dyche metaphorically dies on, in the sense of that he will lose his job because of his persistence to play Michael Keane. He took Michael Keane out, and it was then right, is it going to be Conor Coady? Is it going to be Yerry Mina? Yerry Mina had been fit, pretty much ever since Sean Dyche had come into the football club. He decided to give Yerry Mina a go, probably because it was, well, I've used Conor, I'm not happy with him. I've used Michael Keane, I'm not quite happy with him. I'll give Yerry Mina a go. And Yerry stepped in and obviously was absolutely fantastic for the remaining, 2 months of the season in keeping Everton in the Premier League. The goal against Wolves, the performance against Bournemouth, absolutely formidable. And we never really seen Conor Coady again until that final game of the season. And, ultimately Sean Dyche is the manager of Everton Football Club, and Sean Dyche will have had a big say on whether or not Everton paid that £4.5 million for Conor Coady. And ultimately, I think Sean Dyche will have looked at it and gone, well, okay, he was brilliant against Bournemouth, but does one impressive game make that decision for me when A, he hadn't played for the month, 2 months prior to that, and B, when Sean Dyche first come in and Conor Coady was playing, he clearly wasn't very impressed with him because he decided to take him out of the team. So, not as a massively surprising decision when you think about the fact that Sean Dyche will have had a massive say on it, because I think it's quite evident that Sean Dyche isn't a massive fan of Conor Coady, and clearly because he decided to play Michael Keane for as much time as he did over Conor. But certainly one that for me is a difficult one for Everton to have made. There's absolutely no doubt in the leadership qualities that Conor Coady brings. There's absolutely no doubt in the respect that he demands because of that, those qualities, and because of his experience as a Premier League centre-half and a Premier League captain at Wolves for so many years. I think Conor, in all fairness to him, really did embrace the culture of Everton Football Club. And there was a lot of talk when he first come in about, we played for Liverpool growing up, and he was a Liverpool fan growing up. I think even in those tough times when he wasn't playing and when maybe he was out of favour, he still massively embraced the football club. He was a real good custodian of it. He always held himself with the highest regard and with the highest respect, and ultimately he always spoke very fondly of Everton Football Club. And you could see, by his reaction when the final whistle was blown last Sunday against Bournemouth, just how much it meant to him to keep Everton in the Premier League. And every time he played, you could see just how much it meant to him. Every time we scored, his celebrations, every time he made a tackle, his celebrations. He really loved playing for this football club, and I do think Conor Coady will be sat there today at home or wherever he is on holiday, quite disappointed that the time at Everton has ended, because I think, ultimately it was an ideal move for him personally in terms of his family, where he lives, and not having to relocate, etc. But I think he really sort of, as I said, he embraced everything about this football club, and I think he really loved it. And listen, as I said, it is a big decision to make. It's a big decision because Everton are now losing 2 of our best 2 centre-halves other than James Tarkowski. I think it's quite fair to say that James Tarkowski, Conor Coady and Yerry Mina are Everton's best centre-halves, and have been Everton's best centre-halves this season, certainly the most effective centre-halves. We've now lost 2 of those players. Yerry Mina confirmed he'd be leaving after the game against Bournemouth, and obviously Conor Coady has left. Now, there is, of course, a massive conversation about Jarrad Branthwaite, and listen, Jarrad Branthwaite has had a really good season at PSV, and he might come in and be absolutely fantastic, but having a really good season in the Dutch League and having a really good season in the Premier League are 2 completely different, completely different things, and there's absolutely no guarantee that Jarrad Branthwaite will be ready for the Premier League. He looks ready and he's had European experience, etc., but there's no guarantee that he will be ready. So that fills one of those spaces. If you are to say, well, Jarrad Branthwaite is going to come in and be a first team player next season, where does the other space get filled? You almost now have to go out in the market and bring in another centre-back. Is there a centre-back out there that could bring us what Conor Coady could bring us for the £4.5 million that Conor Coady would have cost? I don't know. You would like to hope that the club would have a plan in place that they've got 4 or 5 names in a list that they believe will be able to come in and do as good of, if not a better job than Conor Coady, and would cost in and around that same price, maybe a little bit more, but maybe they'll be, 23, 24 instead of the 30 years old that Conor Coady is. But this is Everton we're talking about, and until I've seen Everton have signed a 23, 24-year-old player with all of these qualities who can come in and do as good a job as Conor Coady, if not better, and is a similar price, if not maybe a little bit more because of his age, that's when I'll go, do you know what, the Conor Coady decision makes a lot of sense. But as I said, I don't trust Kevin Thelwell yet, because Kevin Thelwell has done nothing to earn my trust. He hasn't done what we needed him to do last season. Now, I'm not saying sack him, I'm not saying get rid of him, I'm not saying he will fail at Everton. Okay, financial problems and problems within the football club last season probably affected that massively. But he hasn't done enough to earn my trust as of yet. So I'm not sitting here now going, well, listen, I trust the director of football, I trust the manager to be able to go out and find a suitable replacement for Conor Coady. So I am a little bit, £4.5 million for what Conor Coady would bring. I don't think that's a bad deal. But given Everton's financial position and financial situation, is there better deals out there? Probably yes. So it makes sense in that matter. But will Everton be able to go out and find those better deals? History will tell you that they won't. Hopefully they do, and hopefully something has changed. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting one, and I think it has split opinion massively amongst the fan base. I think one set of Everton fans are almost thinking, why did you £4.5 million? Why haven't we just took that, that risk? Other set are going, well, actually, it's £4.5 million that we could spend elsewhere. His stats weren't unbelievable when you break them down. He obviously was out of favour under Sean Dyche, so what's the point in spending £4.5 million if the manager isn't going to play him anyway because he doesn't particularly like him? He's not best suited to a back four, and it seems like Sean Dyche wants to go with a back four. So, yeah, there's definitely reasons as to why Conor Coady hasn't, the Conor Coady deal hasn't been made permanent, but there's massive risks behind not making that deal permanent if Everton don't go out and find a replacement, because we do now, even if Jared Branthwaite is to come in and be the saviour that we hope he will be, we still need to go and buy another centre-back because we've lost 2 and we'll have only gained 1. And that's on the auspices that Jared Branthwaite will come in and do what we all hope he will do. What if he doesn't? What if he comes in and he's in the first 2-3 games of the season, he's not quite ready for it? Then we need 2 centre-halves. So it's interesting. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. For me, as I said, I am a little bit sad to see Conor go, because I do think he is a positive player to have in the dressing room, and I do think he does have positive outcomes on the team. But, maybe Everton will go, well, we've got 5 players here that are younger, that are going to cost a similar amount, and that'll be able to come in and do a better job. That's obviously when you go, oh, okay, let's go and make those signings then. But yeah, interesting one. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. Would mean a massive, massive amount to me. And we'll be back tomorrow with the seasonal player ratings. So don't forget to look out for those. Big, big thank you all for watching, and we'll see you later.